All right, so yeah, right off the bat, I'm just gonna ask probably one of the worst, if not most cliche questions you can ask a band, and the only reason I ask it is because I personally don't know, and there's really not a lot of information about you guys online, really. The band name, I mean, what the fuck does it mean? What's it stand for? What's its origins?
It's a good question.
Is it though?
I mean, we have it's like a really stupid answer, and I've been trying to think of a creative answer that I can give. That's that would be a lie. That would be more interesting than the actual.
Sure.
But James, go ahead. You can.
Okay, basically, Adam and I were hanging out this one time, and I'm pretty sure we were like talking about bananas or something like that. And early on, we couldn't think of a name. I was really pushing for Miniskirt because I really liked that as a band name.
Oh,
but
nice. Yeah.
Having it.
It got a song title though, right?
Yeah, it became a song title, so we're pretty excited about that. But yeah, basically, I was kind of talking to him. Was like, man, like I don't know, like what do you call like a female doctor, right? They don't have like a title. And he's like, yeah, I don't know what you call it. Like, do you call it a doctress? And he's like, yeah, I don't know. I was like, wait a second, what about Doktra? And then Adam was like, okay, that's sick, but we got to spell with a K. And I was like, yeah. He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, all right, that spicy K, that's gonna stay in there.
That's kind of awesome. Right. I kind of love that answer, actually.
We recently played with a band that was like, yo, Doktra, that's the villain from Godzilla, right?
Yeah. And now that I think that's now our answer.
Yeah.
So there's actually this villain from an old Godzilla movie.
Do you know what monster he was actually trying to, what it was?
I have no idea. Like he was like, I was like, isn't that like Mothra? And he was like, no.
Yeah.
Like if you go to like the Japanese version from like 1954, there's actually like a villain called Dogtra. I thought it was a reference to that, and I was like, yo, we don't watch any 50s Godzilla.
He got super nerdy on you guys. I love it.
Yeah.
I actually love Godzilla. If I can get off topic real quick.
Yeah, sure.
I own all the video games. My grandparents owned a VHS set of all of the old Godzilla movies, all the bad ones too, where it's just clearly dudes in suits. Man, was that stuff good.
So now I'm thinking that I was tricked into naming the band after Godzilla.
Godzilla, yeah.
I had no idea.
Sucker.
So let's talk about I kind of want to talk about Adam Beck for a minute and kind of what he does with you guys, what his place, I guess, with the music and in the band is. I mean, it's the two of you, obviously, and you guys tour with other people, but he writes all the bass parts, or does he just help with the recording and the mixing?
So his role in this band is pretty nebulous. It started out on the self-titled era, which would have been like 2 EPs ago. He was pretty solidly like in the writing process, especially towards the end. We actually met him at a show in Milwaukee. He was playing drums in a band called Brownie Mountain, and he offered to record our record, and then he kind of offered to kind of join the band at one point. So he was basically a full-fledged member. He participated like on our first big tour. And then at one point he decided to leave Indianapolis and move to Chicago. And when that happened, his role kind of diminished. And now he really was only involved in writing like 2 tracks off of Pagans. And those would have been Rivals and Life Destroyer. But even then it was more just arrangement.
Yeah.
And then he kind of was involved like with the mixing and of course the recording part of things. But at like we go back and forth on what his role really is in this band and whether or not he's even in this band.
Yeah.
It's actually funny. We're just talking like the one like curveball question we didn't know how to answer is if somebody asks us where Adam Beck's in this band. And
you launched the torpedo.
Sorry,
ready
buddy.
for anything.
Good, lovely. So when you guys do start tackling songs, I mean, is it just like a badass guitar riff and then you lay down some drums, or do you ever tackle it from how would this bass part work here? Do you write a bass part?
Yeah,
for guitars? I mean, is it all just kind of an amalgamation of all of that?
Right. I think it's interesting to me because I think it changes from record to record how we write each record. Because like early on, I think it definitely began with like just here's a badass guitar riff, like, and then we just kind of build from there. And then with Pagans, it became a lot more structured where like I would bring almost entirely completed songs to practice and then just go, hey, lay down drums on this track, and then there we go. But now that we're writing a new record right now, and we're moving back towards like, okay, here's a badass guitar riff, and then we'll just see where it goes.
Yeah.
I think we're enjoying that writing process a lot more than we have like the super structured stuff in Pagan. So I think we'll be sticking with that for the time being. But I guess to answer your question, it's a mixture of both.
Okay. I remember you talked about kind of stepping away from looping as much. Is that still something that you're doing with this new material you're writing?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's now basically become like looping is almost like only done in the moment if it feels right.
Yeah.
And I don't really like build as much anymore. And it helps that like I've been writing a lot away from my pedal board, away from my looper, to kind of force myself not to rely on that little gizmo anymore.
It's really coming across that way in the writing process too. Like we actually just did practice tonight, and we're just kind of running it back with this interview. But yeah, like we're able to write some really dynamic, really intense stuff. And Adam really doesn't have to worry about looping, so we can really kind of focus on just like layering these giant, big, massive reverb sections, and I can just really wail on the cymbals. So I definitely think like for the next kind of direction we're going in, it's going to be something a lot bigger, a lot heavier, a lot more epic. I hate that word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I guess from there, let's ask a silly question here for you guys. All right, so Adam Beck, sometimes in the band, sometimes not in the bands, and maybe you've gotten this question before. Any bass player, if you wanted to turn your little duo into a trio, any bass player, who would you snag up?
Who's the guy from Russian Circles?
Right off the bat.
That guy makes bands.
Yeah.
These Arms and Snakes, Russian Circles. What's his name?
Botch. It's Brian Cook.
Brian Cook. Yeah. Botch too. Holy shit.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be my choice at least. What's yours, man?
So I'm a lot more insecure and pathetic. So I'm gonna go with anybody who actually wanted to be in this band.
Yeah. Instead of like being bachelors, we're just like two lucky musicians looking for a lucky bassist. Like long walks on the beach and tempos and
in the key of D.
Playing in 7/8.
I like to imagine you've got the the flyers at like the Sam Ash stores where you just rip off the phone number.
We've got a Tinder profile going for the band.
Oh, that would be amazing.
It's not going too well so far.
It's a picture of a guitar, then it's a picture of a drum set, and then it's a picture of a broken heart, and it says "Complete us."
Can you fill this void? So how many this last tour you guys just wrapped up? Would you do eight cities?
Yeah, I don't know the exact count. It was around 8, and it was really split up because we had like a full 2-week tour booked, and then we kind of got like dad jobs, and both our dad jobs were like, nope, you're not taking off 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
So we kind of had to split it up, and we kept the weekends we liked and kept the shows we liked, and that ended up being really stressful, I think, not only because like it was weird going back and working like 4 days and then going back on the road and then doing that again, but also like it put a lot of pressure on each of those weekenders to really be epic, like really make up for pressure. And like some of the weekenders, like Florida, where you helped us out, like was fantastic, and like we really felt like that was worth. We could have played one show and it would have been worth the trip.
Yeah.
But then we played another weekender out heading west for the first time, and that was like as close to a dumpster fire as I think we'll ever come.
Yeah,
having in this band.
I think our southwestern leg is one we probably won't revisit for a little while.
Is it the Texas show or?
It was a few things. We played in St. Louis, and we played for probably 3 people. And then there were like 30 people outside of the glass, like drinking beer and staring in at us like we were zoo exhibits, which is fine. That happens, and it was the first show of a tour, so it was kind of like, okay, like this could be a good warm up for the next gigs. Hope the next ones are better. Then we get to Tulsa, and we played. We played really well in Tulsa, but we opened up for nobody. They made us open the show, and we kind of asked if we could like wait to start, and the people arrived, and they're like, no, we got to work in the morning. We want to start on time. So we were like, okay, great. So we played for literally nobody, and then afterwards, one of the bands, I won't say who, she came in and like were like chastising us about playing too loud, and they were like, "Yo, like when like people start walking out because you're too loud, you got to read the room, man. You got to know what you're doing."
Ugh.
And
Ugh.
it was awful. It was awful.
I think Adam and I can agree that that's probably the closest that him and I have ever got to like physically fighting another musician.
Oh,
Was
Yeah.
this dude that was just going on about us, and then, if I can say this, they came in with the worst, junkiest looking gear ever. Like tiny little. I mean,
How
not
they
that I'm
sound.
just judging them off
Yeah.
their gear, but like these dudes just did not know what they were talking about.
But like
at
the
all.
silver lining of that show to me was like the guy who owned the bar was like, "Yo," like after that guy like walked out and like had said his piece, and we were all kind of really, really livid. The bartender walked up and he was like, "Yo, I don't know what that guy was talking about. Like, you guys were fine. I loved you guys." And then like that's when we noticed like he had put on Edebisi Shank
Oh.
after we had played.
He knows
and,
what's up.
and he was like, we were like, "Oh my gosh, like this record." And he was like, "Yeah, I love this stuff. Like nobody knows what it is." And we were like, "Yo, like we got to come back." So, and then like that night in Tulsa, that next day in Tulsa, our van broke down. And we had like been thrown on a show in Arkansas that we didn't make it to. And then while driving like through the night to Nashville, Tennessee, we got a message. I'd emailed this venue in Texas about that date, like the date in question a long time ago. And I guess they had booked us and never told us. So we got a message in the middle of the night being like, "Yo, you're still coming to the show tonight in Texas, right?" And it's like, "No, like we're halfway to freaking Nashville right now." So like not only had our van broken down after that really crappy show, but then we found out like we missed a show. The only good show on that leg was Nashville, which Nashville just blew our minds. It was so freaking fun. It almost made the whole weekend of trash like worth it. But,
Great music city, huh?
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the three hedonism tracks on Pagans and kind of what the connection to it is, what the story is there, because you've got the part 1, the part 2, and the part 3, and I kind of wondered if you could talk a bit about what that is supposed to symbolize for you guys.
Talk about castles.
Yeah. Well, I guess like first I'll mention like the overall theme of the record. Like we kind of had this idea with this record. It was we've done our fair share of just like, here's an awesome guitar riff, like let's play on this. So we kind of thought we'd go for a concept on this record, which is like something to kind of keep in the back of our minds while playing. And the idea was like, essentially you find out you have 24 hours till the end of the world, and how do you spend that 24 hours, that 72 hours, or whatever we want. And hedonism was kind of the different people kind of dealing with that, like the different people you'd find dealing with like that knowledge of the end of the world.
Yeah. And like I know specifically like the song Castles, the second in the series. I remember kind of feeling really weird, especially kind of at the tail end of the election cycle, just kind of seeing how really, really different opinions were kind of emerging and budding. And I kind of started to see how like there were lots of like middle-aged people that were kind of starting to treat like their ideologies and like how they lived their lives, like they kind of boarded themselves up in a castle and they kind of put a moat around themselves so that no one, they're very xenophobic, they're very scared of other opinions and other ideas. And I think ultimately that idea for castles was just kind of like
living in that bubble.
My way of kind of like mocking them or trying to satirize that. And yeah, I think it worked out. I think it fit the song pretty well. So.
Are you guys taking any kind of more concept stuff over into the next album?
No, we've gone back to being cavemen. We're just like, here's a good riff, let's jam.
It was a nice departure, but overall, I think yeah, we're gonna maybe we'll come back to the concept album later. We'd like to just kick it.
How far into to the writing of the next album are you guys? Is there anything you can kind of talk about?
Yeah, we are.
It's the first LP, right?
Yeah, we're calling our first LP. And we are actually 5 songs deep into that LP, which is actually really good progress for us. And like, honestly, taking into account the different like kind of sketches and different ideas we've kind of started, I think we're 7 or 8 songs kind of started. So we're like most of the way there, which is like pretty scary and frightening that we've kind of come as far as we have. And I think for the first time, I think our goal is to kind of write too much for a record and then slim it back. So it's coming along a lot faster than I think we would have expected.
Do you have a date or? And
No.
nothing. No expected time delivery.
I think we have made that mistake with
Yeah.
every record we've ever done, which is like we set like these arbitrary dates on ourselves, and I think the goal with this one is just to like when we're done with the writing, then we'll talk about recording. When we're
Yeah.
done with recording, then we'll talk about release.
Historically, him and I will set a date so that we can force our asses to write faster.
It's the only reason.
That is so true.
Oh, that's fun. That's great. Awesome. So we were gonna close out the interview with after this. We're gonna go into Life Destroyer off the new album. Wonder if you could talk about that song a bit.
Oh man, that's honestly, I got to take the reins on this one. That's one of my favorite songs. I really, really liked the way that it ended up on the album. I think all of our performances are really great. I really enjoyed how my drums turned out on that song, and it's honestly probably one of the more proggy, almost kind of progressive tracks we've ever written. And God, it's just heavy as hell, and it's just a really fun song. I don't know if you got anything to add.
Not really. I mean, I think my favorite parts in this band is always when we get heavy. So,
Yeah.
and that song is kind of on 10 the whole time. So,
It's a fantastic song. I love the beginning. That.
Oh yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that so much. Awesome. So for anybody listening, where can they find you guys? The usual suspects, Facebooks.
yeah, we have facebook.com/DoktraBand. We also, probably the one that I update the most because I'm very basic, is Instagram. So that's probably the best way to find us is keep up to date with us. So I'll post a lot on Instagram. I think that's Doktra Band for the Instagram handle.
Yes.
And then all of our music is for free on Bandcamp. So bandcamp.com/DoktraBand.
So there's really no reason why people can't be listening to you guys. It's free.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all free.
Even if you hate us, even if you think we suck, download all of our music. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for doing this for me, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.